Your boss isn't underpaying you because they don't value you. They're underpaying you because you are letting your work stay invisible. If you keep believing the myth that your work will just speak for itself, here's the cost. You get overlooked, someone else takes credit, and you stay stuck while louder, weaker performers pass you by. In this episode, you'll get 3 moves to change that fast. First, you'll learn how to build a business case so a raise becomes a business decision, not a favor to you. Second, you'll learn the Excel self-evaluation method that proves you're already operating at the next level. And third, you'll discover how to time the money conversation so you don't negotiate too early and blow your leverage. She spent 15 years in corporate at places like Amazon and Yahoo, and when she was in corporate, she didn't negotiate her first offer and paid dearly for it. Then she flipped it, coaching leaders through promotions and pay raises by controlling the narrative and leveraging market value. And she's going to show you the single mistake that makes good employees stay underpaid for years. Let's jump in. Yota, I think a perfect place for us to start would be talking about the connection between personal branding and actually getting paid what you're worth. So tell us a little bit about that connection.
So when I started my coaching business, I started by coaching executives. So executive coaching, leadership coaching was what I was doing. And of course, as an entrepreneur, the one thing you need to do in order to have a business is to have a personal brand. Because if people don't know who you are, what you offer, what you're good at, then obviously you're just not going to have enough business. So I started doing that for myself. And then I thought, why not try that within like the corporate world with all these executives? So I started doing personal branding for my executives clients as well. And the one thing I realized was that we had so many more and easier promotions, pay rises, career growth when people had a brand, both in person and online at the same time. And I realized that, well, actually entrepreneurship is not as far as a corporate career is, because I think in every setting, you do need to represent yourself. And a lot of us, we grew up with the idea of work hard, your work is going to be recognized. And I mean, we'll know that's not happening 99% of the cases. So I feel like personal branding is something that was giving ownership to my clients for their careers and their growth. So instead of positioning the ownership to someone else, their managers, their leaders, they start taking ownership of that by having a strong presence and controlling the narrative. So instead of letting other people describe them and figure out who they are, they actually could influence that narrative. So that is kind of how I started injecting more and more personal branding within promotions and pay rises. And I felt like that was such a good combination of skills.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I love that this applies to both entrepreneurs, founders, and folks who are in career professionals, because not everybody listening to the podcast wants to start an enterprise, but everybody is in some capacity within one, right? And the same rules apply, because if you're negotiating as a business owner or founder, then you're saying, okay, my personal brand will drive the value of my negotiations in a lot of cases. But also, if you're within your career, working within an enterprise, your personal brand will also drive the efficacy of your salary negotiations too. And you brought up a really good point. You don't get paid what you deserve. You get paid what you negotiate. And a lot of that is up to the narrative that you create. And it's a rude awakening when we realize, oh, our work doesn't speak for itself. I wish it could.
And it's not anymore. Like I feel a lot of this philosophy came from like Industrial Revolution and after, where there was a completely different style of leadership. They wanted people to just do the work. They didn't care about the things that we care now, and growth and mindset and happiness and all of these nice things. I feel these are quite new concepts. So it does require a change in the mindset, but we all grew up with this kind of like old ideas. And then, of course, social media happened. And the one thing that social media forced us to do, which I think it's a great thing, is to be a little bit more selfish and talk about ourselves and who we are and how great we are and why people should follow us. And I think that kind of like forced us to change, and is still forcing us to change a little bit our mindset around self-promotion. And it's not anymore just bragging. It's more about communicating what we have actually achieved. So I feel it's just a mindset shift that needs to happen. And unfortunately, within people in corporate, it's happening way slower. As I said, for founders, for entrepreneurs, it's kind of, I mean, you just know you will have to do that if you decide to run a business. So, I mean, we're kind of prepared mentally for that, but I think people in corporate, they're not, and they're missing a huge opportunity there.
I agree 100%. And let's speak to the mindset too, because a lot of times when it comes to these topics where we're talking about personal branding or a salary negotiation, people understand what it is that they need to do, what it is that they need to say, but then there's a disconnect that prevents them from doing what they need to do and saying what they need to say when it actually matters. So I want you to speak to the person who is listening to us talk and cringing, saying, ugh, I don't want to go on social media. I don't want to be self-promotional. Like you said, it feels like I'm bragging. I like to stay quiet. So for those people, how would you, is the case that you would make to them to get them to start to see things a little differently?
So obviously, this is a topic and a lot of people have opinions and everybody's saying, yes, you should self-promote. You're amazing. You should tell people how amazing you are. My take on that, and I would like to bring something maybe a little bit different. I think, we come in this life, and one of the big things I'm working with my clients is confidence. And confidence is the single topic that is coming up with every client, from directors to executives to founders to solopreneurs, YouTubers, course creators, whatever you name it. People will talk about confidence. And usually it's within coaching, which is a more trustworthy relationship that people are actually going to open up, and we'll talk about the real issue. So for me, that was quite eye-opening because I would always, I worked in corporate for 15 years, right? I worked for Amazon, for Yahoo, for like different size of organizations. And I would always look at these senior people and I would think, oh my God, they're so confident and I'm not that confident. And then being on the other side and coaching these people, the one thing I realized is actually, well, these people are not confident either. So it feels like confidence is a theme that's been running around. And for me, I think this process of not bragging about yourself, just being able to articulate properly who you are and what you do well and what you have done well. It's first of all, you're doing it about yourself, because it's such a saying to live this life and live without knowing your full potential and what you are capable of doing. And I think imposter syndrome and low confidence and self-doubt are the things that are holding so many people back. And they could achieve 10 times more things than they do, but because they just play small, they're missing this amazing opportunity of exploring what they could actually be doing. I think a lot of times it takes like a coach or a very good mentor or a very good leader to kind of push you out of your comfort zone to try things, put yourself out there. But I think having the intention of exploring what's the highest potential you can get, and I come from a positive psychology background, so I feel like a lot of my ideas and the way I see my work is inspired from this idea of how do we get people not from -10 to 0, which was traditional psychology, but more from 0 to +10, which is like happiness, fulfillment, joy, like achieving this well-being, essentially. And I think a lot of that is hidden into believing in yourself, being able to talk about yourself, feeling good about who you are and what you do. And I do know that a lot of people who are playing down, then they're so resentful. Sometimes they're resentful about other people because they're like, oh, this person took the promotion and they didn't deserve it. Where I'm like, well, apparently they did something really well in order to take the promotion, even though they're not as good as their job. And I think we need to accept the fact that self-promotion and self-presence, if I may use that word, I think it's even better because it's more like presenting yourself rather than trying to promote something. just presenting yourself for who you are is a skill, and it's a skill that clearly it's very well rewarded. So I feel instead of complaining about why other people did what you couldn't do, maybe instead we can adopt a more growth mindset and think, oh, what can I do then to increase my visibility and the way people perceive me, like my worth, how others perceive what I can bring on the table and my impact.
I love all of this. And you're absolutely right. I think we should take that feeling of jealousy we often feel when we see somebody else doing well, and we should look at that as a reflection on ourselves to say, if I'm looking at this person and saying, well, they shouldn't have this, or I should be better off, or that, I think that is an indication to you that there's something left for you to achieve in your life, in your career. And now it's about figuring out how we can make those tweaks in order to get it. And the point that you made about the looking at other people who are successful and saying, oh, they're so confident, they feel so good, they don't have imposter syndrome, then getting behind the scenes and seeing that they have all of the same concerns. You know, the reality is that a lot of folks let imposter syndrome and a lack of confidence hold them back. But a lot of the high performers, they still feel that imposter syndrome. They still feel that lack of confidence, and they still do what is required. And a lot of times we wait to feel ready, but being ready isn't as much of a feeling as it is an activity. We have to do the things, and then we become ready. We make ourselves ready. We don't just sit back and wait for some nebulous feeling to come upon us, and then we will be like chosen and do what needs
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, they're coming to me and they say, oh, Yota, you're so confident. I want to be as confident as you are. How can I do that? And they're expecting a secret formula. But for me, the secret formula is like very, very simple, is do the thing. First of all, set the goal. Think about, okay, what is it, the thing that challenges you and you find it really difficult? Write it down. I want to do this thing and I find it really difficult right now when I'm writing this down in my notebook. Then do the thing. And when you do the thing, turn back or look back and think and say, oh, I achieved this thing that on the 10th of December 2025, it was a very difficult thing for me to achieve, but I've done it. And then cement that with a reward, because there is a lot of power into taking action. So a small reward to yourself, which can be from a meal out with your partner to buying a small gift, to whatever that might be, is actually how we are creating those anchors of confidence. And the more of these anchors you have, the more you realize, well, actually I can do this, and then I could do that. And that's where confidence is. It's not that magically you wake up one day and you just feel it. It's all about, exactly as you said, like taking action and doing the thing, and then acknowledging, oh, well, I did the thing. Look at that. Maybe I'm better than I thought I was, or maybe I can do a little bit more than I thought was possible. And now this thing doesn't look as difficult anymore. But because I think instead people keep looking at what's next. And confidence is not built into what's next. It's built into what have we achieved already. So I feel like it's a very tiny, simple process, but again, it can be super powerful.
Sometimes when you don't say what you did, maybe some people in your team can take credit of what you did. So it's better for you to do it in advance so that you make sure that the credit is with you.
Yeah, and also it's not about lying. It's just you're stating a fact. You did something, just say you did it. How do you expect other people to know? Unless you have an amazing manager. But I mean, an amazing manager is probably very busy to pay attention to everything that you do. So unless you tell them, then how do we expect them to know and reward us or acknowledge our effort?
Agreed. I remember I was talking to somebody that I was coaching on communication negotiation, and he was mentioning that he was really frustrated that he saw so many other people getting awards when he knew that objectively, per the metrics, he was more qualified for those awards. And I said, well, do they know what it is that you're doing? He said, no. I said, that's the problem. You're not sharing enough. And he said, I don't want to be bragging or self-promotional. And I said, well, it doesn't seem like you want to be not getting these awards either. winner. So he made a concerted effort to share his wins. And once he started doing that, he won those awards. And then he was able to be promoted to general counsel within a couple of years of that, because he started sharing more. It wasn't necessarily his performance did improve. I was coaching him on negotiation, but he was able to get recognized in different ways. And here's the thing, for the folks who feel like it's bragging, I used to be that way. Like if you look at the history of my social media, you could see increasingly how I was more willing to share. But I share from a position of humility. So for me, humility is all about accuracy. And if I am not sharing and downplaying my accomplishments, that's not humility. That is self-sabotage. If you objectively have accomplished something and then you share that accomplishment, that's not bragging. That's just sharing. Or like you said, presenting yourself.
Exactly. And as I said, like, I don't know if you saw that through your work as well, but for me, I see it all the time. And then people are saying, oh, how did you do that? Do you do like magic? How do we get this promotion so quickly? And I'm like, well, first of all, I'm getting you to ask. And then second of all, I'm just helping you communicate really well what you did. So the company realizes that this is an investment they want to make because they know they're going to get return on their investment. But if you don't do that, why would they give you more money? Like, this is a business, it's not a charity. It's like a business exchange. So you give something, they will take something, and the other way around. But if they don't know what they get, I mean, why would they give?
That's such a good point, because if you don't share, then you are sitting on all of this value that you have, but the other person doesn't know that you have. So how then are they going to be willing to give you what you want? Because they don't know what the value is to themselves. I think that's really important.
A lot of people.
Here's a quick warning for everyone listening. Scams and identity theft usually don't start with some genius hacker. Most of the time, it's just because your personal data is so easy to find online. I'm talking about people search sites, shady directories, and places where anyone can pull up your address, phone number, and even your relatives' info. And then they use that leverage to impersonate you or target your family, and that's how these scams usually work. That's why I've been using Incogni. Instead of you spending hundreds of hours manually trying to opt out of these sites yourself, Incogni just automates the whole thing. They act as your proxy, taking down your data and demanding its removal from databases you've probably never heard of. And the thing is, this isn't just a one-time fix. Data has a way of popping back up, so Incogni continuously monitors these sites in the background to make sure your information stays deleted. I personally recommend the Family Unlimited plan. It's the best way for you to cover your entire household. It includes custom removals, so if you ever find a specific page exposing your family's info, you just send Incogni the link and their privacy experts handle the manual takedown for you. You can get your data back risk-free with Incogni's 30-day money-back guarantee. And if you use the code ANYTHING at incogni.com/anything, you'll get 60% off an annual plan. Again, that's incogni.com/anything. Code ANYTHING. When you start something new, whether it's a business or even a big creative project, you realize how many hats you suddenly have to wear. You're doing branding, systems, operations, marketing, and the to-do list keeps on growing faster than you can finish it. That's why having the right platform is such a game changer. And for millions of businesses, that platform is Shopify. Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all e-commerce in the United States. It helps you to build a beautiful online store with ready-to-use templates, and it gives you the tools to run the whole operation in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics. And if you ever get stuck, Shopify's award-winning 24/7 customer support is always around for advice. Start your business today with the industry's best partner, Shopify, and start hearing. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/Kwame. Go to shopify.com/Kwame. And one more time, that is shopify.com/Kwame.
People, they say, okay, I want to ask for a promotion. And I always rephrase that to, we need to build a business case, because I feel a promotion is a business case. And that's what we need to do. We need to show to the business, as I said earlier on, why they should make this investment. How will they get return on their investment? Step number 2. And then step number 3, why you are the perfect choice for whatever is this business opportunity that you are putting forward in front of the business. So I think a lot of people think the promotion as something selfish. I was like, I want to get more money. I work harder. I deserve that. And I'm sorry to break it to you, but business is not working like that. They're not going to do it just because they love you. I mean, in some companies they might do. And I feel like there are some like cultures where they value their employees genuinely, but 99% of the companies, and I've genuinely worked with like some, maybe if not like the top, but I would say at least the, top 20, 30 companies globally, from like TikTok to Facebook to Google, like all these like tech giants, etc. And these are businesses. They're running a business. And when you have hundreds of thousands of people under the employment, a promotion is a business decision that you need to be making every single time. So we need to demonstrate to the business that we can think like that. And also, this is part as well of competency, right? You are asking for more money because you feel you're more competent within the business. So show them that you are actually thinking about the business, and whatever it is that you're asking, it's a win-win situation. Yes, you will be rewarded more, but then the business has so much to earn from that move.
Yes. Well said. And I think this gives us an opportunity to talk about the specifics now of the personal brand that we want to build. Let's say we're talking to somebody who doesn't have any personal brand. Where do we start? What are some of the things that we need to make sure to touch on?
So my take on personal branding, it's a little bit different, I think, from like most personal brand strategists, because a lot of people see personal branding as making someone look very, very cool. And for me, I feel this is not the right approach on personal branding. I think personal branding should be all about identifying what are the strengths of the person, what makes them unique and special and different. And every person is unique and special and different because we do have a completely different combination of, appearance, knowledge, life experiences, cultural backgrounds. So if we bring all of the things together, then what we get is someone who is really, really unique. The problem we see is that because our biggest strengths, they come so naturally to us, usually we just don't realize we even have them. So it's kind of like our own blind spot. So for me, I'm a huge fan of strength-based coaching, which is all about helping people identify what are their strengths and then leverage them in order to amplify whatever is their goal is. So for me, personal branding starts from that deep inner work where you see someone, you understand their personality, their strengths, their differentiators, as I call them. What is this unique like cocktail of things that if you bring together, you make something that is really, really special. And then the second part of that, so I would say step 1, do the inner work. Try to understand what is it that makes you different and special, and what are the strengths. A very good exercise, which is super simple but super powerful, is go around, find 10 people, ideally mix relatives, colleagues, friends, and just ask them what they think is your superpower and how have you used the superpower to help them in their life in any way. This little exercise always blows the mind of my clients, because the insights they get is completely different than what they thought, just because other people see in us what we cannot see for ourselves, because we just do it. That's how we are. We do it by default, right? It took me 30 years to realize communication was one of my skills, because I communicate with people. I'm like, everybody does that. Well, everybody does that, but some people do it really well and some people don't, right? So for me, starts with like do psychometrics. There are some amazing tests out there that they're also free, and you can see what are actually the strengths that you have, ask people, do your research. And once you know what that is, then you start doing the external part. And for me, I take my clients, my VIP clients, I take them for like shopping and styling, and we do a photo shoot together. And my whole intention is not to create a fake image, is I want to just bring out the personality. So when the person enters the room, they feel like their best version of themselves and the most confident version of themselves. And a lot of times, I work with some amazing entrepreneurs, and they don't know about styling. Like I work a lot with founders, for example, and many of them come from a technical background. Like I was an ex-software engineer in a previous life. So they don't know about styling and this and that. And I feel like they've built these amazing businesses, but then what you see and what this person has created, there's a very big gap. So for me, personal branding is more about making a fair representation of the person. So when you see them, you get the real sense of who they are and what they did. So I feel like it's a combination from the inner work and the outer work. And then, of course, tone of voice, the language, making sure, when someone sees you online and then they meet you in person, they'll get the same experience. And they won't be thinking, oh, who is this person? Like, he speaks completely differently, like that, his social media, like he's not that interesting. So for me, personal branding is done well. Well, it is a magnet. It is a magnet. So we're not creating the personal brand so people think we're cool and important. We're creating the personal brand in a way where the people who will think we are cool and important find us.
Oh, that's so powerful. And immediately, I think many people are saying, well, I didn't understand personal branding at all. Because with what you just said, you broke down so many different nuances.
That reminds me of Amy Winehouse.
Yeah.
That she had a big talent, but she thought it was not special. So she didn't tell anyone that she knew how to sing, because for her it was like, everyone can sing like me, right? It's natural. And she didn't realize that she had that gift. So sometimes we don't know what we have. So I think it's very special what you said about asking people what is our superpower, because maybe we have it and we think that everyone has it, and it's not the case, right?
Yeah, I agree. And I think too that I have to temper my ambition because I want to jump straight to negotiation, but I'll give this little note here too, because I think a lot of times that same phenomenon occurs in a negotiation when you're negotiating for your salary, trying to get a promotion, whatever it happens to be, because we have all of these incredible things about us that we just take for granted, that we could bring up in those conversations, those wins, those accomplishments, those skills, but we just think everybody has it. And so we just have to take the time to recognize, hey, listen, there are some things that you do very well. And now when it comes to sharing these tactfully, what are some of the biggest mistakes people make when it comes to sharing their skills or their awards or accomplishments online?
I think some people are trying too hard sometimes. And I think it's not about, trying really hard. It's just about stating the facts. So if you did something, I like to teach my clients of how we do self-promotion without making self-promotion, without other people realizing. So I'll give just an example. So let's suppose I want to self-promote right now, and I want to say that I worked, with like the CEO of, any brand, the CEO of TikTok. Let's say TikTok. That is so fancy right now. So let's suppose I worked with the CEO of TikTok, but I don't want to clearly self-promote and go around and be like, oh, you know what? I work with the CEO of TikTok. Look how amazing I am. I have the best clients in the world. You don't need to go and do that. I think you can also just say, someone is asking me a question, right? A leadership question, something about how they lead. And I could just respond saying oh, that's such a great question. And actually this came up in my conversation with the CEO of TikTok just a few weeks ago. And the things that we highlighted during this conversation was how, for example, trusting your people is so important, because as a leader, you can help your people build their confidence because you believe in them and because they look up at who you are, the moment you believe in them, they will believe in themselves as well. So what I did right now, right? I did tell you that I am coaching the CEO of TikTok, but, and you know that is going to be at the back of your head. I didn't need to highlight that. Why? Because what I focused on was the value. What was the value? What was the lesson? What do you can take from this conversation? I didn't focus on how I will promote myself. I focused on what is it in for you. So especially in corporate, when people are coming and asking us about our work, what we did, or an advice, they might ask us just, you're an amazing project manager, and they need some help on like managing stakeholders. So they might say, oh, you know what? I have this challenge. I don't know how to manage the stakeholders. They're so difficult. What do you think I should do, Yota? Then I can just say, well, actually, that's so interesting. I had this exact same problem when I was running this very big project last year, where we had to launch this whole new feature within our product. And the way that I managed to bring all stakeholders together and align them was by telling them X, Y, Z. And then I highlight, like 90% of my response is about the value and you and what you ask me. And the self-promotion is just, hey, I just put in there a small piece of information that is not necessarily useful for you 100%, but is not highlighted so much in order to take the attention from what you actually came to me. But I am shaping a perception. I am shaping the perception, oh, Yota is a really good project manager. She actually worked on this very big project. And, oh, I remember how difficult it was to get the stakeholders to align. So she was behind that.
Are you ready to take your business marketing to the next level? Meet Brevo, the all-in-one CRM platform to help you connect with customers, boost engagement, and grow your business smarter. With Brevo, you can manage all of your customer interactions in one place, nurture leads with their built-in CRM, reach your audience through email and SMS, and keep them coming back with powerful automations. But here's where it gets really exciting. Meet Aura, Brevo's AI assistant. Aura helps you to craft smarter campaigns by suggesting personalized content, optimizing send times, and even analyzing performance data to help you improve your strategy in real time. It's like having a marketing expert on your team 24/7. And of course, Brevo offers advanced analytics, seamless integrations, and AI-driven personalization. Everything that you need to create multi-channel campaigns that hit the mark every time. And of course, Brevo offers advanced analytics. Get started for free today. Use code ANYTHING50 to save 50% on starter and standard plans for the first 3 months of an annual subscription. Just head to www.brevo.com/anything and take your marketing further with Brevo and Aura. All right, let's talk about something that's actually a negotiation skill. Taking care of yourself before you show up to negotiate with anybody else. Because if you're tired, stressed, and running on fumes, you're going to make worse decisions. Period. And that's why I'm a huge fan of Cozy Earth. Cozy Earth's whole mission is to elevate the everyday with obsessive detail and better materials so you can feel it immediately. Their bamboo pajama set that's made from viscose from bamboo is unbelievably soft. It drapes really nicely, and the classic cuddle blanket, that thing is dangerous because once you wrap up in it, you're not getting anything done. It's plush, it has a comforting weight, and makes your home feel like a reset button. And here's the best part. It is completely risk-free. Cozy Earth gives you a 100-night sleep trial and a 10-year warranty, so they really stand behind the quality. So this month, show a little extra love to someone you care about or yourself. Go to CozyEarth.com and use my code Kwame for up to 20% off. And if you get a post-purchase survey, make sure to let them know that you heard about Cozy Earth right here. That's really good. That is very, very good. Yeah, because it's tastefully done. And also it shows that you've been there before. And so what I mean is sometimes you get somebody into a new scenario and they're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You're taking pictures like, oh, this is great. It's like, okay, first of all, clearly you've never been here before and you might not expect to ever come back, you know? And so when you say, when you say it in the kind of matter of fact way, you're like you realize, oh, Yota just plays at this level. This is what she does.
Yeah, because it's like casual. Oh, when I was coaching the CEO, that happened. I mean, I did tell you I coached the CEO. I did create a perception about, how badass coach I am. But I didn't make it about me. This whole thing was about you and what you came to get, what you came to get from me, right?
Yes, that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And now this gives us an opportunity to segue into negotiating salary. And I know that's what a lot of folks came here to talk about. And again, I think it's a great place to start for us to debunk some myths, because we've had a number of salary negotiation episodes on the podcast. But when it comes to how to negotiate your salary, what are some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen people make in this process?
First of all, they don't negotiate at all. Number one mistake. And you will be surprised on how often this mistake is made, despite all of us talking about this. I know you're really passionate about the topic. I'm really passionate about the topic. Yet, I have people, especially in Europe, where I'm based, that I did a recent podcast a few months ago, and we talked about that. And people in the comments said, oh, I didn't know that there were people that had expertise on negotiation, and that is something you can learn. And I was like, well, clearly there is. And it's because these people, they never thought that negotiation is a skill, or they can learn, or there are resources that they can go to. So I feel like first myth is that, or first challenge, I'd say people don't do it. Second of all, I think many people do it too early. So they negotiate before they actually got confirmation that they are at the next level, or that the company is willing to invest. So they're jumping the gun, because that's the thing that they care the most. Is like, oh, I want to talk about money, so I'm going to say that right now. And I'm like, yeah, but you haven't convinced them yet. And they haven't told you that they are convinced. So I feel like negotiation, and feel free to challenge me on that if you want, but I think negotiation happens after they've agreed about your value and what you bring on the table, and that what you bring deserves more than what you get currently. And then we negotiate, at least from my perspective.
Yeah, I agree with you, because I think it helps us to understand the difference between sales and negotiation. So let's say I know in America it's Shark Tank. In other places it's like Dragon's Den or something.
Yeah, Dragon's Den.
Yeah, so you have the entrepreneurs who are pitching their business to the investors, and then they try to see whether or not there's a deal. And if you don't understand the distinction between sales and negotiation, you make mistakes. So for example, the person might come in and say, hey, this is my business, this is what we do, we've had these features and everything like that. And so the investors get interested. They say, okay, sounds great, so what is the offer? And then the offer is, let's say, $100,000 for 10%. And then they say, no, I don't like this is too much, or we don't like this. And then the entrepreneur says, well, no, you might not have heard me the first time. It has these features. We've accomplished this. And the investors often say, stop selling. We're talking about the deal now. And so really the point that you're making is that you start talking about the numbers too early, you haven't sold them on yourself yet. You haven't generated that interest to where they say, I want my future to be with this person. Now we just need to talk about the details of what it takes to get that done. So you have to have the sales skills and the personal branding skills to convince them beforehand. Once they have been sold on your value, that's when you start negotiating your value.
Exactly. And then I think and for me, the third myth, if you want, is that people go into a negotiation without knowing what is their market value. And I think that's such a huge mistake because first of all, 99% of people will undersell themselves. I get clients that come to me and they're saying, I don't need salary negotiation. I have such a good salary. I don't want to get more money. I'm really happy with what I get. And then they tell me their salary and I laugh. And I'm like, you think that that's a good salary? And obviously, I know everybody's salaries. That's what I do. The first question I'll ask someone is, what's your salary? What's your package? So I think I have very good benchmarks about in every market, what people should be getting based on their level of seniority. So I'll ask them a couple of questions just to understand how senior they are. And then I know roughly where they should be financially, based on like location, expertise, seniority, all of these things. I would say like, if not 100% of my clients, I'll be generous and say 99% of my clients, they're massively underpaid. So they go into a negotiation and I'm like, well, you should ask like 20% up. And they're like, I'm never going to get that. I'm like, yeah, clearly, because you don't believe you deserve that. But if you knew what everybody else was paid, and sometimes within the same company, because I do have clients who work in the same company, and I do know each other's salary. I cannot reveal that, of course, for good confidentiality, but I have the knowledge. And I'm like, well, if you don't know what you deserve and what you should be getting, how are you going to negotiate efficiently? And because if you give them a number that is too high, they will just think you're delusional and they will disregard you. If you give them a number that is way too low, they will think, oh, they're way more junior. They don't know how to value themselves. So let's just give them less.
Right. No, you're so right. And I think a lot of times what ends up happening when it comes to your perception about your own salary and compensation is that we might benchmark ourselves against the wrong people. And so I see this a lot for folks who have been underpaid consistently, almost systematically. So oftentimes women and minorities, they will compare themselves to other people who are in the same boat. And since everybody's being underpaid, then you think you're being paid an acceptable level because you're comparing yourself to people who are in the same boat, who might have been mistreated in the exact same way over the course of the career. And so you come in, you have more of more experience dealing with other people at higher levels, so you could see where this person could increase. And I also think there's a bit of a connection between their perception and personal brand too, because they might be telling very small stories about themselves and believing those stories, and then therefore, again, underselling themselves because they haven't been, they don't have the confidence to actually talk about their worth in a really accurate type of way.
Another thing that plays a lot into that is also the network and the type of people you are surrounded with. I have these clients, he's amazing. We've done, I think now we're like 4 times up her salary in 3 years since we started working together. And when she came to me, she was making 50K here in the UK. And she was like, oh, I make really good money. It's 50K. And I was like, why do you think 50K is really good money for what you do? And she said, well, my mom, the maximum she made in her whole career was 35K, and I'm like 30, and I'm already above what my mom made her whole life. So I feel like, and that was her environment, right? Like the people she was surrounded with, her friends, they were all at a lower salary because of what they were doing, right? They might be working in like specific sectors that they don't just pay as much. But now she was working in tech. She was really senior. She was growing. She had the team. So like 50K is ridiculous. When she told me 50K, I was like, what? I mean, like you need to take, I was like, your benchmark for what you do is between 100 and 120. And she's like, do you think I can make this money? I'm like, well, but I think it's, it was the mindset and how she grew up and the environment. So I think like our surroundings also play a lot of times a huge role. And that's why I always tell my clients, make sure you're surrounding yourself with some people who are a little bit like above you, because that is opening up your mindset and what you think is possible for yourself. And sometimes, we're overachievers. We're doing so many things. We go way beyond when we thought from where we thought we could go. And then we forget to recalibrate a little bit with our new level of competency, because we keep perceiving ourselves as our old self. Our existing friends and circle perceives us in like the person I was 5 years ago. But we have created a new identity. We have developed new skills. We're not the person we were 5 years ago. So we need to also recalibrate the way we perceive ourselves in order to enter a negotiation with full confidence, but also make sure that we will get paid what we're worth, essentially.
I agree 100%. And the case study that you presented is really fascinating. And if you feel comfortable, can we stay on this for a bit? Because I think there are a
I'm
few
gonna
people
say
who,
her name,
of
but
course, exactly. We want to respect confidentiality for sure. Because I think a lot of people, as they listen to this, they're going to hear themselves in the story that you told. And so let's say there's a person who is at 50K, but they discover through market research, wow, I could be making significantly more. What would you say is that person's first step into moving in that direction?
I like practical stuff, so I'm going to give an exercise. And I always tell my clients to do this exercise first before we do anything else. Because, people trust me, otherwise they wouldn't come to work with me. But it's more important if they trust themselves first, and that's where their confidence lies in. So I get them to do what I call a self-evaluation worksheet. And it's super, super simple. It's just an Excel file. And I ask them to have 5 columns in this Excel. So the first column is the responsibilities of their current level. So let's say you're a project manager, you're saying stakeholder management, launching a new feature, blah, 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 every quarter, whatever that might be, right? Whatever are the responsibilities of your current level where you're performing right now. Column 2, examples. So give me an example of when did you manage stakeholders? That is 2 lines. I don't want them to write their life story. Just a quick example. Yeah, last year launching that feature. Great. Then column 3, let's look now 1 level up. So wherever it is that you want to go next. Or even if you don't want to, whatever is the next level from where you are, what are the responsibilities in that level? And then column 4, what are some examples of you having done that? So, for example, a project manager might be just managing stakeholders within their department. A senior project manager, they might be managing stakeholders across different departments. So I'll ask my client, well, was there any example where you had to manage stakeholders of multiple departments instead of just yours? And they would be like, oh, yes, because last year I had to do this project. So then, sometimes you really need to challenge them because they cannot think that they've done this thing when they actually have done that. So I would say have a thinking partner when you do that, someone who will push you a little bit and challenge you. And then what happens is that in most cases, they realize, oh, I've been doing everything at my level and I've been doing 30, 40, 50, 60%, 1 level up. And they're like, oh, I need to be paid a bit more. I deserve a promotion. I've been already performing at the next level. And it's literally, we need to sit down and write it so they can see it in a visual way where you literally have the Excel boxes full of examples of what you did in the next level in order for them to realize that, oh, I deserve that. Like I've done the work. So for me, step number 1, it's always you need to know, first of all, are you eligible for the promotion? And if you're not, then, that's a different conversation. Then I'll tell them we are not ready yet for the promotion. You need to make sure we do a few of these things and then you will be ready, because I don't want to burn them, right? I don't want them to go there and ask for a promotion that they won't get because they don't qualify. But if they are ready, I want them to have proof of why they are ready. So for me, step 1 is always self-evaluation worksheet. Let's see where we are at your current level. Are you 100%? Are you at least 30% doing the stuff of the next level? If yes, then yes, we should negotiate more or more money or a better title, whatever that might be.
This is brilliant. This is brilliant because it's the first step in making your case, not just to the other side, but I think more importantly to ourselves, to see that we are worth it, where we say, okay, objectively, I cannot deny that I have what it takes to get to this next level. And Simone, I see you unmuted too.
This answer deserves a 5-star review. It's incredible. This is incredible. It's very easy and practical. So listeners, if you're enjoying this and you can write down this spreadsheet, it is a very helpful thing. So I am very grateful for that knowledge that you just shared with us. And I think that one of the things that we don't think about when we go is the objections that we can face, right? So one of the things that I've heard a lot is managers saying, hey, I can't give you this because there's people in the enterprise that have been working with us like maybe 4, 3, or I don't know, 7 years more than you. So you're so new, and they can't have a lower salary than you. So how can we overcome that? Because we did our best, but it turns out that it's just because of the seniority that we don't have the salary. So how can we overcome that?
I have two answers, and the one is exactly opposite than the other. Okay, so my first answer is that's where the business case comes in. And that's why I invite my clients to build a business case, because in a lot of cases, if you justify how you're going to bring this money back to the business, the business won't care how many years you're in it. They want the money. So if you're like, if you give me this role, and because what is it, a promotion, right, for the business? If we look at it like the other way around, does it mean I promote someone? It means I ask from someone to increase their performance. Because before they were doing 3 things, and now I'm going to ask them to do 5 things. And these 5 things are also significantly harder than the 3 things they were doing before. So a promotion from a business perspective is that I'm asking from someone to do something more difficult and produce more. And that's why I will pay more, because they will produce more, right? So it's like, as we said, give and take. So if you build a really strong business case and you're like, if you put me in that position, let's use a real example from like clients I've worked with. There's a client I'm working now. I'm helping him to get to the director level. So he's been performing on this level for like 2 years now. He didn't know how to ask about the promotion. So we're now maybe 2 months, 3 months maybe in the coaching. And he literally has the performance review where I'm waiting from like day to day to get the results. So with him, what we did is I was like, okay, you want to go to the director level. What does director need to do in the business? And he's like, okay, these are the roles and responsibilities of a director. Great. And I was like, if you are in this director position, what is changing from your perspective on what you're giving back to the business? And he's like, well, if I'm into the director position, that means I can have a bigger team, which means his expertise is he's like marketing director, right? So he's like, oh, then, for example, they're trying to build the profile of some of the leaders. So he's like, I don't need to like be doing the day-to-day stuff, but I can have other people doing that. So I can think more clearly about the strategy, what's going to be the bigger impact. He's like, I have already tested this thing with my smaller team and we've seen amazing results. So then if I manage to build a bigger team around that, then I know I can bring to the business way more money. I was like, what does way more money mean? I was like, go and find me the data. So like based on the small example that you did, the test that you ran, how much money more did come in the business? And then tell me, if you are in a director position, how much more can you bring? And quantify that. And he was like, oh, based on this, he gave me a number. So I was like, okay, now we have a business case. Now you show to the business why. So he goes to his manager and he's like, look, I feel there's an opportunity in the business. We've run this test. These are the results. I think if we focus more on that, we can bring X more money in the business. I am the right person to do this because of this and this and this background and the stakeholder, whatever it was that we put inside the business case. And the manager was like, oh, I love that. There's actually a big opportunity. He's like, can you go and present that to our VP? So can you go on? So then he goes to the VP and the VP is like, oh, this is amazing. Like, I really like this idea. Yes, let's do that. And then my client is like, okay, but in order for this to happen, I need to step up into a director position because from where I am, I just don't have neither the resources nor the capacity to take on this piece of work. And this is a more senior work. This is what the director does. And he brings out the list of what the director does. So he's like, look, these are director responsibility stuff. I cannot do this work without being properly like acknowledged. And now we're actually like in the negotiation of like, what's the salary package? So the company, he was asking for the promotion for 2 years. And they kept telling him, oh, you need to go to that more senior level and this and that. But it was until he showed them the money, it's like, this is where the money is. that they actually considered him for the role. And he also demonstrated that he can think at the director level, he can think about strategy, he can think about long-term impact in the business. So I would say when they are telling you we don't have the money, first of all, show them the money and be like, okay, there is an opportunity for the business there. And sometimes it might be financial opportunity. There might be other things, right? Like you need to think about your strategy there. And if it's still a no, so if you show them the opportunity and they're like, no, we can't do that, then what I say to people is that then you also need to make a decision. Because if you've literally done everything right, they're like, oh, yeah, there's an opportunity. We want you to do this, but we don't want to pay you more or give you a better title or whatever that is. Then you need to consider whether that's the right company for you. But I think first try, because a lot of clients come to me frustrated and they're like, I want you to help me change a job. I can't get a promotion. And I'm like, well, let's try together. Let's try my way. Because I'm like, if I cannot get you a promotion, then I can say 100% that you either need to stay in the company and accept what is it, or you need to leave. So I feel when we hit all the doors and we realize, well, the company doesn't really want to invest in us. Or maybe it's a company that there's not room, right? There are some companies who are just small and they just don't have this like different levels. So even if they want to, it's just the structure of the company and the growth of the company cannot support that. So then you either decide, okay, I'm going to stay because I get knowledge, I get a better title even though I don't get the money, or I'm under this leader that I admire and I'm learning so much, or I get visibility, so I'm building my brand because this company is like a high growth startup and everybody has eyes on them. So, and you decide to stay, or you're like, well, I really want to grow, or I really want to make more money. I feel I can do better. And then you try.
Yes. Oh, this is so good. And Yota, as I was listening to you, I was saying you must be very competitive, because Simone said that was your 5-star point that you made. And you're like, just wait, I've got something even better. This answer is so good. And I love so much about it, because essentially what you're helping us to recognize is that we're negotiating. We are not begging. We're coming to this conversation as equals with high levels of value and worth. And a lot of times we kind of go in just saying, please, may I please, I've been working really hard. And the vibes are not right. What we're saying is this is a business deal. This is about business. This is about making money. I know you need to make money. I know I need to make money. Here is the plan that gets us both what we want. This is what it will require. And this is what I have to offer. And it ties into what you said before really, really well, because you said sometimes we negotiate too soon because we haven't sold them on the value. By building the business case, we sell them on the value, not just our own value, but the value of our work and what the future looks like with the company. And then when they are bought in on that value, they say, yeah, this is great. I think we could do this. And I think you're the person to lead it. Well, I'm glad you said that. Now
that's my rate. And that's my rate. And how much I want. That's how much I want to do that. But like it's funny, and thank you for the positive feedback. But like what's funny that is when I was working in corporate, I didn't do any of this stuff at all. Like 0%. I remember joining Amazon, and it was my first year in the UK. So I left Greece. I was like 24. I'm going to give up my age now, but it's fine. So I was like 24. I leave Greece, take a luggage, come to London, find my first job, apply through LinkedIn, whatever. I find the job in Amazon a year later. And I was like, wow. I was working in tech. Like Amazon is like the top tech company in the planet. I was like, wow, Amazon wants to interview me. So I go in the interview. I'm like, there's no chance they're going to hire me, but I'm going to enjoy that, because I'm like, when I will ever interview for Amazon again. So I go in the interview. I'm just like so happy. I'm telling everybody, I'm so happy I'm interviewing in Amazon. Anyway, 8 interviews later, they send me an offer. And I was like, wow, Amazon made me an offer. And I was like, yes, hire me. Didn't negotiate anything, not even £1. Then 3 months later, I'm working 14 hours a day. Like they're like squeezing me from the inside out. I'm like, oh my God, I'm working insanely. I'm producing so much. And I'm like, oh my God, that was such a good hire. And then I am like, and I'm so badly paid. um, so it's like, I'm not saying all these things because I did it. I personally didn't do it. And I think a lot of my passion comes because I was like, I wish someone had told me that, like, first of all, now I would probably be a CEO of a business and I would be making multiple millions if I knew all these things like 15 years ago. But also the other thing is like, for me, this knowledge, it came more from practice because, I would coach my clients, my leaders, and then as part of our coaching, they would get a promotion because they would be better leaders. And I just had the chance to test things hundreds of times with hundreds of clients. So I feel like I kind of built my method from like trial and error or trial and success. And I would be like, oh, we said it like that, but then that objection, I was like, I haven't thought about that objection. So next time I would coach a client, I would be like, oh, but this objection might come up. Let's see, is your business case covering this objection as well? So I feel like, doing that in repetition again and again and again, at some point, you just can predict how the conversation is going to go. You can see the gaps because you heard like 100 different objections when someone was building a similar case. So a lot of the things I'm saying is not because I'm like smarter than the people who are listening to that. It's just because I've tested that so many times. And when you're an employee, I mean, you're not going to have this conversation like every month. So you don't get the chance to practice. So I feel like whenever you find opportunities to listen to people who, like me, who are doing this, like, that we've been doing that. We've been helping people with like career growth and leadership skills development and negotiation and all of these things. I feel like that's such a huge opportunity because you're tapping into a knowledge that for this person, it took them like hundreds of hours to build and get to know that. But also, I'm saying it from a confidence perspective. Do not feel bad about yourself because that's not your area of expertise. And unfortunately, no one is teaching us this stuff. I feel like salary negotiation and presence should be part of like our school curriculums. Yeah. Right?
I agree. And what I'm seeing now as we wrap up the episode too, understanding your background a little bit better and also seeing the connection between your background and where you are now, you're kind of like a superhero who you said, you know what, corporate did not pay me what I deserve, but I'm going to come back. And I know now that you've helped your clients make millions of dollars that they deserved. So thank you for the work that you do. And thanks for breaking this down because the approach of blending the personal brand with negotiation is novel and also very, very powerful. And clearly it works. So before you go, let the listeners know again how they can get in touch with you and the work that you do.
So you can follow me on LinkedIn, of course, with my name, Yota Trom. Please connect with me. If you have questions, I love to answer questions. So please feel free to connect with me. And then if you go to paywhatimworth.com, you can find quite a few of the resources I've shared, like the self-evaluation worksheet and other things. And yeah, if you want to reach out, I'd love to hear from all of you.
Amazing. Yota, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.